Good evening. We are back live on Orta No Better, and nobody's late tonight, Karl.
Yeah, look at that. Well, we're a minute late, but you know.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Look, if
we're
you're going to
here.
be punctual,
We
do
were
it
here
properly.
on time. We were here on time.
Yeah, well, look, if you're going to do it properly. You know?
It just shows you when the dream team's on, mate, things go smoothly.
I know, yeah. This is the way it goes, you know.
That's it. I'm just going to run us a little intro, and I'll talk a bit more, if I can speak, about what we're doing tonight and what's coming up.
Yeah, Sam, man.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Orta No Better podcast. Let's do this.
You look like fucking Brolin, you're a Leeds eating bastard. Look like some sort of fucking weird floating head. No. You utensil player a bit, innit?
I mean, I feel a bit right, dickhead.
Nothing spectacular, really. Well, my accent last night were not very spectacular, were it? But there'll be none of that tonight.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you, Jay. I hadn't a goddamn clue what type of accent you were trying to do when I was watching it last night. I was sitting there.
Mate, neither did I. What? Could you hear it?
Oh, man. I was like, I have no idea what that was. And then someone, who was it, Luke, that said online today that it was like Liam Neeson in something or other. And I was like, don't insult Liam Neeson with that. Don't be dissing the man like that.
I wish I could claim that's what I was doing on purpose, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to get away with that one, am I?
No chance.
Yeah, I mean, we had last night's pod. We had a good chat about what's going on. Obviously, Daniel Farke arrived, so we got that to talk about finally, which has felt like a bloody long time coming.
Yeah.
There were relief that it wasn't some of the other candidates, I think, for a lot of people. And it's just a big positive step forward, isn't it, when we've not had anything really to be positive about since the season ended.
Yeah, absolutely. It, like you said, it was a long time coming, Jay. And I'll be honest with you, I know Luke said he probably would have preferred Vieira last night on the pod or whatever the case may be, but
Madman.
I don't think Vieira would have cut the mustard at all. I don't think, I could be proven wrong with how he gets on in France, but that's a Farmers League anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, look, I'm very happy with Daniel Farke. I think he's got the experience now in the bank in the Championship to really push on. And I'll be honest, I was doubting it for a little while at the start when his name started getting mentioned. You know, you looked at finished 10th in the Bundesliga last year, got sacked, but you're kind of looking at the Bundesliga and going, look, it's 10th, you know, and people were kind of criticizing him a little bit because of the team that he had and the squad that he had was meant to have been better than a 10th place finish. But at the end of the day...
Was it Mönchengladbach it was at?
It was, yeah.
They're not exactly the biggest team in the league, are they? They're not a team that are saying, oh, we should be in the Champions League every season or anything like that. So it's not like he's had a disaster.
No, that's the thing. Like, and when you look at how we got on in the Premier League with Norwich, both times, I think it was a maximum of about 30 million that they spent in 2 promotion seasons.
Yeah,
you can't expect a manager to work miracles with that. No one's saying that. He did have a good squad and he did have a good striker in Pookie up there as well. Like, but there's only so much a manager can do with the squad that he had. Like it's
nobody's saying that you have to go out and do a Forest, but you've got to spend something.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going to have any hope.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and I think if he was given money to spend properly, perhaps he would have done a lot better. Maybe not much higher than he was, but you know, it's definitely an appointment I'm not disappointed with.
And you'd say the 4-year contract shows faith on both sides, really. He must be happy with what he's been promised, and the club are saying, you're our man. We're not hiring you to fire you. You know, we're hiring you to take us forward and make us back into a force.
Yeah, I think that's the case, all right. And it shows a lot of confidence, like you said, from both sides. But also, I think it shows a commitment and a belief in him that they're willing to give him that 4-year contract. And the fact that the last manager well, look, we won't get into that, but
I think we've done enough of that.
Yeah, it shows a lot of faith in him. I'm glad they did do that. I don't think it's going to be a scattergun approach when it comes to, results might be going a little hayway or whatever. Like he did finish kind of 15th or something, 14th in his first season with Norwich. Now I don't think he'll finish that low with us in his first season. But I think it's a give him a chance type manager. It's not a pull the trigger and off your pop type manager,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're going to be upset if we're not doing well. It's just the way we are. All football fans are upset when they see the team underperforming. But he's shown that with time and with backing, he will achieve what he's set out to achieve. And with the amount of upheaval that we've got coming, and make no mistake, it's a lot. And I was listening to Joe earlier, and he said something about there's office staff and stuff. They're turfing a lot of them out. The whole culture of the club is being transformed. They are starting from scratch essentially, and it's not beyond the realms to say that we might struggle a little. It might not be what we want.
Yeah, well, with the amount of players that are potentially going out on loan and we're getting nothing for them, it's going to be a very different starting 11 come the 6th of August against Cardiff at home. I do see people kind of going, oh yeah, we're going to finish here, and yeah, we're going to get we don't even know what the starting 11 is going to be. We couldn't pick a starting 11 now if you give us all the tea in China. You know what I mean? And it's not going to happen. So we need to keep the expectations low at the moment and see how we get on. He said the transfer window is going to go right up to the deadline. So there's a lot to unpack there. He knows he's going to see players leaving in their droves because they have these stupid clauses and stuff like that. So it's
Victor.
Yeah, it's well, look, he's gone to Sevilla now, and there's 90 million in the red. So who's laughing? Really,
I feel terrible for him, Karl.
Oh yeah, I'd say so.
Absolutely terrible. He'll have to do some actual work and find some cheap players.
Yeah. Well, you can see the caliber of player as well, that just wants to up sticks and leave. But you've the likes Brendan Aronson and stuff like that going off on loan with the potential coming back next year if we go. Do we even fucking want him if he comes back?
I don't want to see him again.
It's like you were quick to jump.
Exactly.
Why don't you just jump again and off you pop?
Keep jumping.
But yeah, I think he covered enough of that last night anyway.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to get 2 pence worth in there, sure.
Pick of the litter tonight, Bully says. 2 fine pups. I'd take either.
Nice one, Bully.
Cheers, Bully. Danny's still positive in the comments tonight. I think he said 14th yesterday that we're getting.
Oh, yeah. He did, didn't he?
Liam wants playoffs as a minimum. So I think that's the minimum success. But again, we can't be too upset if it's not amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So after telling Joe yesterday, we're going to steal a bit of his content for our channel. We've got a special guest on tonight who also appeared on Joe's show. We've got Jacob from Canary Cast. I'm just going to bring him in so we can grill him on Daniel Farke. Evening, Jacob.
Evening, you right?
Yeah, not bad, mate. How are you doing? Oh, you froze a little there.
Oh, sorry, cut out. I'm back. I'm here.
How are you doing, mate, apart from freezing?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah. Apart from obviously awful internet connection in Norfolk. Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, there's a joke in there, but I won't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not bad. I tried to wear a T-shirt in your honour with a yellow bird on it, but my green screen has played haywire with it, so you can't see it, mate. It's but I made the effort. We like to treat our guests well on this channel.
Love it. No, I appreciate it.
I didn't bother my arse. Sorry about that.
1 out of 2 is not bad.
No, well, that's it. At least one of us cares. That's why we don't have Karl on very often. It must have been a busy week so far for you guys. You must be getting a lot of messages and people reaching out.
Yeah. I said to you both, obviously, before we came on, there's quite a few people have even messaged, all quite nice to be fair, which is always a bonus. And I've been busy everywhere today.
Everywhere, this lad.
Literally everywhere. Can't stop. Must be the go-to Norwich kind of person. There's not many of us round here, so that must be why.
You can't keep a good man down, Jacob.
Exactly. That.
All right. Well, I'm gonna fire straight in. We want to know all about Daniel Farke. We've been deprived of any kind of communication or information from the club for about 6 weeks here, haven't we, Karl? So we're just looking to find out everything we can at the moment, because this is the only bit of news we've had since the season ended. It's just been it's been awful, to be honest, this year. Normally there's something going on. There's rumours. There's respected journos coming out with stories and things that you think, he's normally reliable, so there's something in that. It's just been rubbish. Even, was it 3 days before Farke got appointed or announced, that one of the papers ran a story saying Vieira was the man, and they just make up rubbish, and you're clamouring for something that's got some substance to it,
Yeah. No, I think, to be fair, as soon as I saw Farke's name, I was thinking there's something that would ignite his sort of passion there. I think to be, I've said it on a few other kind of places, I think he personally feels he's above championship level, but I feel when you've got a club of your size and the chance for him to restructure, I think it's really interesting that he's kind of picked himself, or not picked himself, but got the manager's title rather than head coach. Gives him a lot more responsibility than probably definitely what he had at Norwich, and same with Gladbach, to be fair. So he's got, more responsibility, a big contract, a big club ready to rebuild, new owners, so a new slate there. I think it's a big role for him, but something that he'll kind of lick lips at and say, look, this is something he's had experience of clearing out a squad before. He had that at Norwich in his kind of first season there, after we'd had a really poor season in the Championship, and then after we'd been relegated under him as well, he had that kind of chance to rebuild it again. And obviously, I've obviously heard you saying, whilst I wasn't on, that one of your chaps was saying Vieira's the better man. To be honest, I don't see anyone better than Daniel Farke. 2 promotions in 3 years, and 2 title wins. Only one other man in the history of Championship football's done that. So I'd say that's not a bad guy to have.
It's certainly the sort of track record you're looking for when you're trying to get back quite quickly. I get why people like Vieira, but for me, he's not shown me that he's got what it takes to dig you out of a hole when the going gets tough, when it comes to Farke, how is he regarded in Norwich now? Because obviously, when he left, you weren't doing well.
Yeah, we'd sacked him. But everyone, I would say, and a lot of Leeds fans will kind of relate to him very quickly. He's loved still at the club, and or by the supporters definitely. And as we've sacked him, we can't really say, oh, well, what is this? If it was the fact he's resigned and went somewhere else and then gone, he'd probably have a bit more of a kind of name against him. But no, I think a lot of people are probably quite sad, actually. It's like having your ex-missus go to maybe not your friend, but someone you know of. And it's like, oh, should we have gone that? Should we have done that? How's she going to act with this one? Or,
you know what I mean? Knobhead from
exactly. Honey, they all think they're big there, so it'd be really interesting to see how he goes. I think there's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders in terms of just rebuilding that squad, really. But I think it's one that he definitely feels he's going to back himself in, and his backroom staff have gone with him, so he knows what he wants. He'll know who he wants, and it's just about putting those pieces together now. The financial backing as well will be big for him. I think there's Gladbach, he didn't really have any, especially at Norwich. He had very little money, so if he's got finances to really kind of put in his system, I think it really could quite work for Leeds really well if he's given enough time to kind of put everything together.
Yeah, and it's like with us, with sort of Bielsa, when there was a rumbling about him going to Bournemouth, and it were just the idea of it's heartbreaking to see somebody that has been so special to you and your club to then go and be somebody else's. That's difficult to take, isn't it?
Especially in the same country. I think when he went to Germany, it was like, okay, stay in Germany. And even there are even comments then, at least he's not gone to another English club, at least he's not gone to whoever it would be. But to come back and to have him come back to Carroll Road when I think it's October, November time, isn't it? Quite early on in the season.
Yeah.
It's going to be, he'll get a good reception, but it'll be so weird to see him in the away dugout. And I think a lot of Norwich fans won't really know how to take him because he's such a nice character, as well as kind of being a really intelligent guy. You can't really dislike the guy, especially from a Norwich point of view. Like you say, what he gave us.
Yeah.
It's going to be just so strange. And even if he celebrates, if you win, if he loses, it really doesn't really feel like it's actually really going to happen. So yeah, it'll be a really weird one. But yeah, it's an unfortunate one. But I'd say if I was a Leeds fan, I'd be looking optimistic towards this appointment, really.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Jacob, I just want to touch on something there. Yourself and Jay were talking about where, it's going to be weird seeing him back at Carrow Road and all that. When Bielsa joined Leeds first, you had the Chilean supporters, you had Bilbao supporters. They were describing themselves as the widows of Bielsa.
Yeah.
You have murals of Farke in Norwich now as well. Like, do you consider it kind of you're still in a bit of a mourning phase because
we've got a question on that, Karl.
Oh, right. Well, I'll touch about the would you be considered Farke widowers? Would you?
I think so at the moment, yeah, because also we're doing really poorly. I think since he's left, we haven't got better. I think, like yourselves with Bielsa, it would have been the same if he'd gone to Bournemouth or Everton or whoever he was linked with at the time. We haven't got better. We've only got worse. We haven't actually got the identity back since he's left, really. We had such a clear kind of pinpoint kind of philosophy and way of playing and style of player that we didn't really have before him, and we definitely haven't had after. So it's really a case of you're kind of pining for what you did have. I think it was the right time to sack him when we did. But yeah, very much so. I'd still say a lot of Norwich fans hold him in a lot of high regard. I think just because he has such a bad Premier League record, he's kind of, haters or, dislikers at Norwich will say, yeah, but he couldn't do it in the Prem. I think if you look at it really strategically, I think you could take a lot of points away and kind of look at a lot of reasons why it didn't work in the Premier League. And you'll probably ask me in a bit, there's a lot of reasons why it didn't, and I think a lot of coaches would have struggled. If I'm looking at it now, personally, I'd say you've got a better coach than we have, so that's why I'm envious at the moment.
Who is your manager at the moment?
David Wagner,
that's right.
Off.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, not worked brilliant at the minute. Kind of again, if you want to ask about Stuart Webber, feel free to after it in a bit. But kind of worked with him before, and Webber himself's obviously leaving. That's all kind of was very high, and now it's very, very low. That's the kind of character he is. It is a bit, you either love him or you do hate him. And at the minute, it's definitely the latter. With Norwich fans and him, it's gone very toxic. So as toxic as it can for Norwich, probably not the same level as Leeds can go. But at the minute, very much widowers of Farke. I'd say I'd agree with that.
Right.
There are a lot of similarities, seemingly to how we feel about Bielsa and how you guys feel about Farke.
Also, sorry, Jay, but the turn in form for both clubs, it was exactly pretty much mirrored each other. When Farke left G, Bielsa left us. It all went kind of, tits up a bit, and it's like it was the same pattern, but we seem to have got the manager that G wanted, and you've not got the manager clearly that G have pined for, really.
Yeah, so I watched quite a bit of Leeds towards back end of the season and saw a lot of similarity in terms of just kind of watching the Premier League, and saw a lot of kind of Norwich being relegated and thinking that's a squad that's in trouble in terms of going down. There's a lot of players who don't want to be there. That a lot had given up. You could see, especially in that Spurs game, I thought it was embarrassing the way they just gave up. In a game you had to win. I know it was mathematically very unlikely anyway, but there was a team there that didn't care. We'd had. But ironically, our last game was against Spurs as well before we got relegated, and we lost 5-0. So it was a great one. So we'd seen a lot of similarities there, and very much a case of just. I think this again though, Daniel Farke will use that a lot especially with your fan base. He'll kind of go back to that and say, look, I know you've been hurt a lot before, but he'll really go and say, look, this is how I'm going to change it, and that will probably open a lot of kind of. New avenues for Leeds fans. Think this is a positive, but definitely Norwich have gone completely down since, and that's probably a mixture of Webber being Webber and the club just not really recovering from a guy who had such a clear staple of how he wanted to do things.
Yeah, it is uncanny the similarities in the way we've both sort of taken a downturn. Sorry, Karl, you were going to say something.
Oh no, go on, Jay, man. Sound.
It's gone out of my head now. Yeah, so we've kind of had the same thing where when results have gone really bad, and it has been really bad, there has been kind of a feeling in a lot of the fan base, we do need a change, but nobody's been happy that you've had to make a change. No one can look back and say it was definitely the right decision, looking at where we've ended up anyway. It's that kind of thing. You often get it where it's like, I want this manager out, get rid of him, he's crap. But there's so much regret about the way it ended for us. And I think I'm getting the sense it's the same for you guys with Farke.
Yeah, massively so. I think, like I say, it really is quite, almost strange, like you say, in him coming there and just looking back. I think it's very similar. He was kind of held to God type level for Norwich level. I'd say that there hasn't been a manager more supported for the last easily a decade in terms of just how he turned everything around. That was obviously, winning games, playing beautiful football. That was part of it. But he rebuilt everything. He made us feel like we were actually part of the club again, which we'd 100% lost. And he'll do that with Leeds. If he's given enough time, he'll definitely make supporters feel like, they're involved in the club. They matter. We scored, especially when we went up the first time, so many late goals. It just all kind of snowballed perfectly. And everything he said really happened. So it just works so well. And he'll be hoping for it again. I think he'll be a lot smarter this time around. I don't think it's going to be as swashbuckling as what we had in our first promotion. I've said it a few times to other Leeds fans. Probably look at our second promotion in probably more detail as to how he'll do things. A bit more structure, less goals kind of conceded, and still good football, still really good football. But just there's an expectation there. He knows how to handle expectation of the Championship. He knows the players he needs. It's just if he's given the correct players, and I mean his first choice rather than his third or fourth choice, then it will work well. It's where you kind of meet in the middle and go, oh, I have to compromise on this player. We'll get the second or third choice. That's when it can get a bit wishy-washy, and you go, he doesn't. You can see that's a square peg in a round hole rather than the perfect Daniel Farke player sort of thing.
Yeah, Bielsa just wouldn't accept second or third choices, would he, Karl?
No, not at all.
We just didn't sign anyone.
Yeah, well, that was it. But just to touch on something that you mentioned there, Jacob, about the kind of fabric that Farke put into the club. Bielsa, like Jay just touched on there, was given loads of players that, he always said that he wanted better than what he already had. With Farke being manager and the rumours that he's going to be a lot more involved in transfers and whatnot, do you think he's going to have a scattergun approach just strictly because he knows there's so many players going out and he needs players in really quickly, or is he going to be very cautious about that?
He'll 100% look at the youth academy. I'd say that's one thing I'd definitely say. He's brought through 11, 12 players at his time at Norwich from our youth academy, we've never had that before. I think something like 25% of all the minutes played were from academy players under him in 4 years, which is impressive. That was probably
weirdly you had some bloody good players in there.
Oh, massively, yeah, and that was a lot of the players were there before he joined, but he gave them the opportunity where. We've had Alex Neil and other, English, British managers would probably look at it and go, like you say, probably go scattergun and go, I need a result this week. I'm not going to play the 18-year-old right back. I'm going to play the 30-year-old experienced player I've got. I'd say if he thinks they're good enough, he'll say that he doesn't really mind about the age. Like I say, Max Aarons came in at 18, had never played a game before. He put him in the Ipswich game, which is our local derby. Big game away from home, and then he played the rest of the season and has been brilliant for the club. Got over 200 appearances, but that's because Farke backed him. It didn't matter if he made a mistake; he'd stay with him. So once he kind of has the players he wants, he will continuously play them. In terms of signings, he was a sporting director at kind of when he started out in Germany, very low level, then went to the youth team. So he'll know exactly who he wants. And I think that manager role is so key because he's got more of a say and he will know exactly. I think he's got so much almost gravitas in that team. And, even the higher ups, I'd say he's really got actually quite a lot of power there to say, look, whatever you say of me, I've got two championship title wins. I know what it takes. So give me who I need, player A, and they'll come in. I think he'll give everyone a chance to a degree. If there's a lot of times at Norwich where players have either had said something against him, and that player, Moritz Leitner, was an example, had been playing quite regularly for Norwich. As soon as he spoke out against Farke in the dressing room, never played since, was then released and hadn't played. Wow. So he's very much a disciplinarian in terms of if you go against his word, he will bin you off absolutely no problem. And that doesn't matter if that's the best player in the team or, just the kind of reserve goalkeeper. He will not have a problem with doing that. Probably too much to his own degree as quite stubbornness at times. If there's a player who goes against him, doesn't train to Farke's levels, he won't be in that starting 11. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
There is a touch of the like, I can understand that it's about trust in the players that you're going to be putting out on the pitch. He did say that he wants to have 11 players every week on the pitch that are going to die for the shirt, defend the shirt rather. And I can understand why he would look at players like that when it comes to the situation that I can't remember who was it that found the player.
Morris Leitner, who had worked with before, funnily enough. So he's a player who he had personality with, and had he was the reason he came to Norwich. He wouldn't have done so otherwise, in terms of actually coming to Norwich. So it was no problem there. He will be quite cutthroat in that regime, but he will give players a chance. There were players who, like I say, James Maddison had been at Norwich, had been out on loan, and hadn't been used yet. And Farke seen something in him. Thought, right, this is a player that I want to see. He's talented, and really picked him, and he was incredible for that season for Norwich, and then sold for 25 million. So when the trust is there, he will back them. But like we said, as soon as that goes against him, that he has no problem shutting the door on that player.
Yeah, it's nice to see that he's got that kind of strict attitude towards how he trains, how he plays, how you treat everything around the club, because I think, not kind of pointing the finger at anyone in particular, there's a lot of players that are in our squad now at the moment that do need that discipline back, because we lost it the minute Bielsa left. We lost the fitness, we lost the discipline, and it just turned into chaos. And it's nice to have someone of that ilk back in the club as a manager rather than a coach, because he will have the final say on particular players if he's a manager rather than just a coach. He won't have a director of football or the board coming to him going, no, we've just spent 10 million on this guy, you can't do that. And he's like, well, he's not going to fit in now because he's pulled this one and he's done this, so what's the point in keeping him around, And it'll be nice because it'll keep everyone on their toes, and I think it makes for a good strong bond in a dressing room that everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet, and it's got to be done, I think.
Yeah, 100%. He goes along with that. Yeah, he goes along with that. He says that kind of brings them all together like that. He brings the fans and the players together and says it's key to have this all-in-one mentality almost, and bring that. You'll hear that a lot with him. He'll talk a lot about kind of the Ellen Road atmosphere and how important the fans are, and how he's picking the team to match the kind of supporter base. He'll probably talk about even to the degree of where the supporters work, that it's a city that works hard, it wants to improve, it expects grit, it expects hunger. You'll hear all these kind of buzzwords that he'll bring out a lot to kind of resonate with every Leeds fan, really, and say, actually, this is a guy who gets me, gets the kind of football I want to watch, and the players I want to watch.
Yeah, that's what we want at the end of the day. And he's already, I think he's already alluded to it in his interviews, that he understands that we want to see players work hard. That's sort of the minimum that we want. And the fitness levels last season were diabolical, weren't they, Karl?
Oh, they were shocking. Like, you'd Mark Rocca training 5 days a week, and he couldn't last 65, 70 minutes. You know what I mean? And he
got subbed every game at 65 minutes.
Every single game he got subbed, and he got subbed and replaced by, no offence or anything, but Adam Forshaw, who'd been out for nearly 2 years with an injury. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
The fitness levels, I have kind of done a bit of background checking on some of the coaching staff, and there's one of your lads is I'm going to absolutely butcher this name now. Chris.
Here we go.
Domogala.
Yeah, smashed it. Yeah.
Yo,
that's a first for Karl. Is that he can't pronounce anything?
100% that's a first for me, man. 100%. I'm consistently shit at names. So I just have a few questions about the coach and staff that are going to be joining him, because a lot of them have been with him for quite some time. Now, this Chris chap, I'm not going to do that again because I'll push my luck. He's a rehab and athletic coach, apparently. So he'll be working alongside our resident Dr. Frankenstein, Rob Price. Is there any idea, like, what's he like with timeframes, with player returns and stuff like that? He's not. Is he cautious enough to kind of go, no, he's not, or would he tempt fate and say, yeah, you've got 75 minutes in you. Whereas Rob Price would be very thorough in how he goes about things, So I'm just, because we're I don't know if you've noticed, but we're infamous for injuries and long-term injuries at that.
Yeah.
And it's very important that if we have a good squad, we need to be careful with the players and bringing them back. How does this Chris chap go about it? Like, because he'd be working alongside Rob, and Rob is quite good. Like,
Yeah, he's intense, Domagala. When you see him, the Leeds once training starts, you'll probably see him and he's massive. So straight away you go, okay, he knows about his fitness. The whole Farke Domagala thing is 7 days a week you will be training and you will be doing double sessions. So we scored so many late goals in the first season because we were the fittest team in the league comfortably. And we were amazed by that. It really was key to Domagala how intense they were. In terms of injuries, we are, it's instantly as infamous as you guys. It definitely was centre backs, always injured. I would say we never really rushed a player. That was probably because of Farke, though. As soon as a player comes in to replace injured or suspended player, if that player who's come in has done well, he then won't replace that player. That even if the injured player is captain or kind of main player, the youth player or whoever the backup is will probably stay in. 9 times out of 10 that happened at Norwich. The only exception was probably Emi Buendia, who was or Timu Puki, who kind of the main stars really.
Yeah.
But every other position on the pitch was mainly if that player has come in and been good. For example, Tim Closer was one of our big centre backs at the time, got injured in our promotion season. Ben Godfrey came in and came in at centre back, really good player, but hadn't really played much, and then played for the rest of the season. So that's how kind of important Farke sees that. Again, he kind of lives by his own word in terms of that consistency. If you give him kind of everything he's got, he's going to repay you with that kind of faith and continuity really. So in terms of time frames, I'd say Farke's very good at lying in terms of when a player 3 to 6 weeks could sometimes crop back a bit quicker than that. So
it's the other way for us. We get told someone's out for 2 weeks and they're gone for 2 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, exactly that one as well. Since Farke, that's been the case as well. But mostly, he will try and keep it very loose-lipped in terms of injuries and stuff. He'll play the media how he wants to. You'll see it very, very quickly in terms of as the season progresses. He only lets the narrative out that he wants in terms of injuries, players, whatever it is. He'll get his message across very clearly. But Don Magala's brilliant. I'd say he's very, very good at getting that team back to a level of fitness that you were kind of used to under Bielsa, I would say.
Brilliant. So
music to my ears, that.
Yeah, I'm delighted to hear that. I obviously have a little bit of information about each of these guys, so I just want to just ask a few questions just to see what the crack is, so we can get a feel for what they're going to be like, in and around the club and stuff. Christopher John worked with him as a first team coach at Carrow Road and remained with him throughout his stints. Was it in Russia and Germany?
Yeah, Russia, didn't he? And it got nixed because of the kickoff, the war.
Yeah, never actually had a game with them. So
yeah. So he'd be classed as the head of performance. And what I want to kind of understand is, we've seen, like, I don't mean to harper on about it, but we've seen how fit we were when we played G at Carrow Road under Bielsa in his first season. Like, we were super fit, like, but G kind of understood Bielsa tactically in the second game and beat us comfortably as well. But can we expect the same levels of fitness under Farke as we did under Bielsa? Because that makes for a very interesting style of football when you've a team that fit. Like,
yeah, I'd say it'll run it close. I think Bielsa's probably on another level to any other coach, but Farke will want it high in terms of, he'll say, and if he hasn't already, he'll bring out the line of, I want 100% possession in every game if I could, ideally. So as soon as that ball's lost, he wants it back. I wouldn't say it's as kind of intensive as a Bielsa, let's all go kind of together and, a bit manic. But he'll want the ball back quickly. That it'll be kind of a 4-2-3-1 formation. So the kind of 2 defensive midfielders will be defensive midfielders and sit, but that front 4 will go and win it back, and they'll be expected to go win it back quickly. So we've got the ball and can keep it. So fitness-wise, I wouldn't have any worries there. I'd expect it to be very high, and with what we've seen at Norwich before, it will be kind of at a level where you can keep the ball, you can maintain it, win it back quickly, but also still be proficient enough in later in the game, 85 to 90 minutes, where, like I say, in the first season, especially, we scored so many late goals because we were so fit in that first promotion season.
I'll tell you what, Jacob, you're getting me excited here. I'm liking what I'm hearing.
I've got another question now, Jay. So this is the one name I was more worried about than any of the other three. Is it Reimer?
Yeah, Eddie Reimer. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Him and Farke have been together for quite a while now. Like he managed them at Lippstadt in 2009, and then carried on with Farke after he retired.
Yeah.
So they've clearly got a good connection. Is he as involved on the sideline as he would be kind of in training? In that sense, like giving him advice and stuff, you know?
Yeah, very much so. He kind of, Farke especially, is always kind of, especially after the first two promotions, had always said how important his backroom team were, especially Domagala. Reimer came out a couple of times in terms of local media and had conversations about why he liked Farke, how inspired he was when he played under him to then go in as a coach with him. And like you say, he's been with him ever since. Has exactly the same philosophy that does Eddie Reimer in terms of wanting the ball, wanting to be progressive, wanting to win the ball back when you lose it. And you can tell when you hear him talk, he loves Farke himself. He was inspired as a player under the coach, and just enjoyed playing with him. So exactly the same philosophy. But Farke will be on the pitch, 100%. He won't be a coach who will be sipping the coffee in his office whilst the other three go around training. Farke will be hands on. He'll want to, and he'll quite regularly kind of stop the play and be very specific to players in terms of either formation or the way he wants them to play one-on-one and as a team. He's very, like I say, very disciplinarian in terms of this is the way I want to play. Yeah, a lot of players have come out and said, look, he's spoken to me very well one-on-one in terms of very small body positions and very specific to Farke and how he wants them to play. So there'll be absolutely no doubt. You can look at all the goals on Twitter, on YouTube, the really good goals. You can see every player, as soon as they pass the ball, they either know where the next player is going to be or they move into next position. It's so intrinsically done because it's been trained to within an inch of its life, really, to really work successfully. So yeah, in terms of there won't be a stone unturned by the four of them really to get that level of football up. It really depends on the players you have. In the first season he was there, we finished 14th, but it didn't work because he didn't have the players he wanted. That summer we then got the players he wanted. Probably not every player he was like, yes, that is the one for me, but it just seemed to work. Those who did come in, those who developed, wanted to listen, probably because they were all fairly young, wet behind the ears, but were talented. So would listen to every word he had to say, and it would just work perfectly. Once it really started going, it probably took 5 to 10 games for us to really start seeing it, especially pretty much after we lost to yourselves. I think it was quite a close game up until 60 odd minutes, and then, like you say, Bielsa and co kind of ran us off the pitch, really, didn't they? To go and win 3-0. After that, we tweaked a couple of things, weren't so open. Max Aarons came in, and it just snowballed, and the football was brilliant. So yeah, there'll be no doubt that they are within an inch of life. Those players will be trained to know exactly how Farke wants to play the game.
Do you think that'll have upset him being run off the pitch by another team like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would at that time. I think he would have definitely respected Bielsa. I think he'd said before the game that this is one of the best coaches in the world, and at the time I remember it quite well because it was a 3-0 defeat. It was a heavy defeat in terms of at home, but we could see what we wanted, and he kind of, what Farke will do is he'll bring in the positives of what has happened first, especially after a defeat. Where we're going, this is how we want to play, which can be a bit frustrating to the ears, especially if you've kind of gone 4 or 5 games like just want to win, don't care about the little things. But he is very intrinsic in how he wants to be. So yeah, there will be negatives to it, but he'll be positive all along in terms of, or keep the positivity going, especially in the early games.
Yeah. It's good to hear that, like, because there's a lot of people kind of, like myself included, like I said earlier on, like we had our doubts when it first got mentioned because of his record in the Premier League, and then you heard about him getting sacked in Germany. But like, you got to look at the positives in every situation. Look what he's done at Norwich. If he was financially backed, I'm sure you'd even say that he could probably have done a lot better and finished higher and kept you in the league, perhaps.
Yeah, in terms of like, so we'll put it into kind of hindsight really, and say yes, it probably could have been. I think at the time we were a bit frustrated in terms of the money we'd spent in the first season, it was 5 million all in all in terms of loans and transfers, which is nothing. It's nothing for Premier League money. We weren't actually that far away before lockdown. We had 21 points after 28 games, had just beaten Leicester 1-0 at home, knocked Spurs out the FA Cup, and then lockdown shut us all down. And quite frankly, afterwards, we were rubbish. We lost all 10 games after that, and the season looked really poor. But actually, at that time, it wasn't actually that bad in when you look back at it. Second time round, he had more of a say in the transfers, but we had to sell our best player to finance that. We'd spent 30 million profit. That was all the Emi Buendia money that we got. So again, it would about total 60 million, but that was for 7-8 players. So again, you're not spending big on players. Maximum we've spent under him is 9 million. So again, it's tiny money in terms of which is crazy. So he's always had a hand tied behind his back, really, in terms of that Premier League, because the difference between Championship and Prem is it's never been bigger, and it's only growing bigger
by the season.
That's one of the things that concerned me the most, was just that. And then obviously someone else said it to me to kind of snap me around and think of it a bit more logically, but I think if managers like that, who have a clear path, like you've said, and they know how they want to play, and they've got the staff with them who they trust and stuff like that, if they're not backed, there's only so much they can do. We even saw it with Bielsa, where they didn't bring in players of the caliber he was looking for, and the whole team and club suffered in the long run. Same as yourselves.
And it was exactly the same with Farke. Like I say, he had more of a say in the second season we went down, that he got sacked in. But we're probably picking second, third choices of who he wanted. And that's why I kind of really press it. If he gets the first choice player, like we did in the Championship 2 times, then it goes magical. We finished 95, 97 points and won the league easily both times in good, especially that first season, as you guys know. It's a good year in the Championship. You guys, Sheffield United were up there, weren't they, as well? And they're a bit of Villa as well. They're big teams and good level of quality. And we kind of just flew through the pack, and we're definitely the underdogs, but we dominated the league eventually.
Like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, pretty much. It's that Leeds game was the one where we were like, we're going to do this, actually. And that was really the pivotal game where, you normally think we're going to bottle this, where Ellen Road's a big game. Remember that the fans were up for it both sets, but that was the game. But 100%, if he's in that Premier League, if he's backed, if he gets there, obviously, then he's definitely got the talent enough to be able to be at that level and compete 100%.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I was looking at the Championship table there just randomly today, and there's only 6 teams in the whole Championship that have never appeared in the Premier League. I think this is probably going to be one of the toughest championships in a long time. You've Ipswich, who came up and they absolutely smashed League One.
It's going to be hard.
You've Coventry there. I don't think Coventry was a fluke. Now, mind you, if they lose Harmer and that Gyökeres, did I get that right?
So you're doing well, Karl. I'll tell you what.
That's 5 out of 5.
Smarty said they can't cope with Karl getting all these names and pronunciations right. What the hell's going on?
It's timeline shift, Marty. Timeline shift. But yeah, I like it's going to be difficult, and I think Farke, by the way you're talking, has kind of gone to the board and said, look, it's probably going to be he'll recognise it's one of the hardest leagues to get out of. He knows himself. But looking at the teams in there now as well, like Sunderland built all right last year, Millwall fell away kind of a bit towards the end. You teams up there that you wouldn't normally expect to be up there, and then you've just added Leicester, Southampton, and ourselves to that mix as well, and it's going to be a tough league. Like
the money that Leicester and Southampton have as well, I think that's easily slept on, isn't it? To spend 10 million on Winks, who should be at this level. I know he should be amazing at this level, and Southampton are going to keep a lot. I think those top 2 places. I mean, I'd be surprised if 2 of the top 3. 3 of the 3 relegated teams. If 2 of them aren't in the top 2, I'd be very surprised. Just because the money you've got, the players you've still got, and the Championship level recently has dropped off so much. Watford will improve. West Brom will improve. Like you say, Sunderland. There's some big teams there that are quite. It's going to be competitive, 100%.
And I was saying last night on last night's pod, like you always get an outlier as well. You get a team like Luton that comes out of nowhere, and you have to account for that happening as well with at least one team. It's just so unpredictable, and that's how you end up stuck there for bloody years.
It's brilliant when you're winning it, isn't it? You get relegated, you're like, we'll go smash the team, we'll go back up.
Championships, yes.
Yes, but as soon as you finish like we did last year, 13th, you go, I remember why I don't like this league.
Sorry, Karl, I'm just going to rifle through a few comments unless you need to. Okay.
No, carry on, man.
No worries, you've thrown me slightly there. Right, here we go. Bully Leeds says, tell you what, Karl is a very clever bloke. Spoke to him a few times on Twitter. Good a bloke as you can get. Jay a close second.
You're making me blush here now, buddy.
Next one is a question for you, Jacob.
Sure.
It's Luke from our pod saying, where do you think Leeds will finish the season before ins and outs? So I guess he means as we are now.
Okay, that's an interesting one. It's an interesting one in terms of how long you give Farke. I think if you trust that system, it can work. But I'd be very surprised if by, I don't know, November, December, you're top 2 and flying. Just because of the way his football is so intrinsic. I know with Bielsa it kind of worked well and it went well, didn't it? Kind of in that first season, you were always up there. I think with Farke it will take a little bit more time. I think there'll be a lot of expectation and he'll have to manage that a lot. If it works well, you keep him and you back the system, you get all the players you want. Top 6 is not easy, but it will be, in my mind, 95% you're there just because of the coach, just because of the philosophy, and he knows how to do it. But let's not forget, actually, in 2 of his 3 seasons, he's not finished below first. That's the thing. It's not even like he's scraped the playoffs both times or won promotion.
No,
he has won it by a canter both times. I think that with a team that didn't spend much money either way, had quality players but did not spend much money. With money and quality players, it's a scary prospect to what he can do if he's given the kind of time to allow it to flow into full kind of rhythm, really.
Yeah. We've got another question for you from Smarty, also from our pod. Do you think that we'll poach any Norwich players?
I don't think there's that many to take, to be honest. I think to be fair, if Leeds were in the Prem and Farke had taken over, 100% Max Aarons would be, in my mind, as the top one that he'd want. He's looked at him at Gladbach, and when he went over there, he loves him as a fullback, so I'd 100% take him. I'd say
I'm not going to lie, I'd like him.
Yeah, he's a quality player. I'd be amazed if he's in the Championship this season. He said himself, Stuart Webber said from the Norwich point of view that he will be off. I think he'll go to a Fulham or a West Ham. But money talks. If he's offered an incredible contract at Leeds, it's an opportunity to go back to a manager. He knows his game inside out and knows how to get him better. It wouldn't amaze me, but it would take a lot of money for him to go to a Championship. Probably more money in the Championship than it would for a Premier League club to take him, to be honest.
Maybe so. We've got a comment from Fergal who's just saying, first Joe, then Kate, and now Farke know better. I don't think we'll be changing our name to that, Fergal, but you never know. We've got to come up with something. Danny says, Jay getting excited in his high chair, his legs are swinging. That's me, Danny. That's me. You know me, pal.
If you're not aware, Jacob, Jay is vertically challenged, apparently.
Apparently 5'8" is tiny.
That's where the legs swinging on the chair comes from.
I love it. I'm only 5'9", mate, so I'll live that with you.
There's no point arguing against him anymore. It's just you just got to roll with it, mate. So
I'm Scottish and I look like fucking Audrey. Apparently, I don't know how to do with that.
I'm going to send Jacob a picture of your lockdown hair later, just so he can see where that's come from. Andy Halo says, this all sounds good. Let's hope we get the team right for Farke. Absolutely, mate. And Deck Buckley says, this is the 5th Leeds channel I've seen you on, Jacob. Just admit you're a Leeds fan.
I've said it on each pod as well. My brother lives in Leeds. I've got family there. So actually, I love the place as well. So actually, to be fair, I'm basically a half Leeds fan already.
There you go. He's halfway there. Yeah. Living on the prayer, something like that. Yeah. Do you have what else you wanted to ask, Karl? I've just got a couple of things left and then we'll wrap up because I don't want to keep you on for too long, Jacob.
No, actually, it was a question that I just realised you have on your list there, Jay. So no, you go for it there, man. I've nothing at the moment, man.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. I was just going to ask you, Jacob, how does Farke handle pressure? Like, does his demeanour change? Do his tactics change? What's it like when it's not going well?
Tactics, no. Plan A is Plan B and Plan C, or so Plan B and Plan C is do Plan A better. He won't change.
We've heard that before.
Yeah. So you'll know exactly. He'll be to the level of what Bielsa is in terms of stubbornness, in terms of how he wants it. It'll be, the players need to be better, not that I need to be better. To be honest, he'll make tweaks. Like I say, in that second promotion season, he made us harder to score against, and probably acted in the more teams expected, to kind of Norwich to be challenging rather than be kind of swashbuckling and just fly through the leagues. In terms of pressure, he'll just be a very honest bloke, to be honest with you. He'll if a game that you've dominated and lose 1-0 off a last minute free kick, that's exactly how he'll see it and say, look, we played amazingly well. And that will, like I say, at times frustrate fans if you go on a winning kind of, or losing run, or winless run. But he is very honest. He'll see such and explain. It's probably quite a German thing, really. The nuances in everything. So he'll talk about kind of little minutes in the 60th minute where you've played such brilliant football in that bit, but you miss that sitter or whatever it is. He will really hone in on that to say, look, we're getting there. We're better. We're going to be better. But he will be honest with you. You'll respect his honesty. I think he's quite an unflappable bloke, really, in terms of he knows what he wants to do, especially in this league. He'll know that he's got success, really. And yeah, that'll be the main thing. He won't really change. He's a good bloke to listen to, win or lose, but he's just so focused and honed in on his own ideas that they'll never change.
I like that he's honest. It's refreshing. Sorry, go on, Karl.
No, it's sound. I used to kind of look at some games where we played the teams that we expect to get hockeyed against, like even we played Leicester at home in Bielsa's second season, and like it was mad because everyone was like, he doesn't have a plan B, and it was the one game I'd seen where Vardy didn't have any out ball over the top, and I was like, well, maybe Bielsa's plan B is just sit a little deeper rather than, push so high up the pitch. Maybe that's what Farke did in his second season, where he was like, well, we just sit a little deeper and we won't give away so much space in behind the full backs and down the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, I think he'd learn a lot from the Championship. Like I say, from the first promotion season, we did just give away stupid goals. We then brought in a defensive midfielder in Ollie Skip, who was absolutely brilliant. Who's obviously now at Spurs. He was really the glue that held it together in the second season. Helped a lot. He kind of understood that, actually, when your two fullbacks go forward in the Championship, as soon as they get the ball, they're going to use that space in behind. They're not going to be Premier League City and go, right, let's recycle and reuse. It really is going to be, if you're playing Rotherham away, you're going to get Rotherham away. It's not good. So he learned a lot from that. And like I said, there's no better person in my mind to manage in the Championship, because he's seen it all. Pretty much every single team, bar a few, he's managed against. And manage against most of the coaches as well. So he'll know what he's coming up against. He'll know the expectation that Leeds fans have, because we had it when we went down the first time under him, that we wanted straight back promotion. So he's got no qualms there. But he'll, in terms of possession, he'll want 60+% and really be dominant. But like you say, he will kind of tweak things very slightly. But the main kind of precedent's the same. Keep the ball, play pretty football, score the perfect goal, and he'll be happy.
Like we had a manager last year who didn't identify the problem of pushing your fullbacks too far up the pitch and negating the ball over the top of your right and left back. It'll be nice to see that kind of problem alleviated within the first few weeks of the season. Like, that'll be all right,
Oh,
the midfield's really important for him. I think I've seen a few kind of comments of Leeds fans saying, wait until Farke sees the midfield and things like that. That is a really key area for him, actually, in terms of. So that's great. So he'll be looking forward to seeing that. But in terms of he's very disciplined in terms of get those two defensive midfielders in who can both play. They're not just going to be breaking up play and can't do anything else. But he'll expect them to be able to pass the ball as well as the main kind of creator in the team. But those kind of areas are so key to him. If that midfield works well, the rest kind of all works together really quite nicely, really.
Would he? Sorry, go on.
No, because I'm going to pull that question from Luke, so that'll take us off on a tangent. You just. ask what you're asking.
When you say he'll play 2 holding players, like one of them is going to be more defensive minded than the other. Would it be a case of if he's playing another player in beside him that they'll try to create from the back and not just break, like you said, break the play up? Is he going to, like, because there's obviously going to be that player in front of them then in that diamond, in that triangle, and it just depends who he puts in there as to how this player potentially plays beside the defensive midfielder.
Yeah, so that was kind of Kenny McLean's role. So if you ever kind of watch the clips, Kenny would normally drop the deepest. So he's a left-footed kind of Scottish midfielder who was kind of a number 10 at Aberdeen, bit of box to box as well. Farke kind of had him sitting in that second role. So it would be in the first season, Tribal, Tete, and then it was Skip as your defensive midfielder who wouldn't do much else but tackle and then pass it. Kenny would drop deep, ping the passes sometimes, but still have that discipline to actually stay. Sometimes go forward if you're, again, really dominant against a really poor side. But more often than not, I'd say you've got it spot on there. He would be kind of the more creator. If not, it would be Mario Vrancic, who had 0 legs, but a beautiful left-footed kind of style of play and free kick set pieces he was beautiful at. So again, he kind of, a little bit of a hybrid role next to the defensive midfielder, but mainly you will sit and will help out that midfielder just to cover left back going forward, right back going forward.
Cool. All right, so that player kind of fall into a back 4 then to cover the right and left back potentially moving forward, right? Yeah. Right, okay, yeah.
Interesting. Sounds like we might be a bit more solid than we have been this past season.
Yeah. That wouldn't be hard, Jay. Like,
got a question from Luke. I was just going to bring up for you. It's a question for Jacob. Is there a risk that he could be overwhelmed with the size of Leeds?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? To be fair, I don't watch German football, so I don't know how big Gladbach are. I mean, he did manage the second tier of Dortmund, so he was in kind of and on the same training field as Jurgen Klopp, so he's got kind of, and Thomas Tuchel, so he's got experience of kind of big coaches with him. Yeah, it's a big club. It's a big expectation. I'd say Norwich aren't, as big as Leeds, but the expectation when we came down the second time was as high as what Leeds' will be now. So, and that was, look, we need to go straight back up. We've kind of, the expectation. Yeah, very much so. The second time we went down, the one under him, was very much that we want to get promoted straight away. You've almost said to us it's a free hit in the Premier League this year because we're going to come back stronger again to get back promoted. And we weren't in the stadium, so it was a lot of online stuff that, again, very passionate, probably more passionate than any Norwich fans have ever been, really, because it's heightened when you're at home, isn't it? You can't do anything else I watched all 46 games because I could. It was as easy as that. So he knows exactly the expectation he needs. He knows how to handle it. And again, like I say, that sometimes that honesty will probably rub up the wrong way if you do lose a 2-1 or a 1-0. But he'll be very honest. He knows what the task is. He knows what he needs to do to get there. So I don't see him crumbling under that at all.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Deck Buckley says you're a good man, Jacob. He's subscribed to Canary Cast. He's going to keep his head down there. Just quickly before we let you go, because as I say, I don't want to keep you all night, mate. No, we appreciate your time, though. Do we need to worry about Webber?
Question.
Oh, that's another half an hour to an hour. Yeah.
Part 2 tomorrow night, folks.
Yeah. I'd be very surprised if he works with Farke again. I think when he sacked Farke, he very much said about he'd only had 5 wins in 50 Premier League games. That wasn't good enough. That's why we sacked him. The way he did it was we'd beat Brentford 2-1 away. He did it in the away dressing room straight after the game. Farke had no idea and was quite hurt by that. There was reports saying from close sources from Farke that was the case.
About that. It's a horrible way to do it.
It was a really cutthroat from a man who had really backed him. The first season, Webber had said, give him time. He'll be a Champions League coach in the future. Back this man, and been all the way through. So to cut it off that quickly, Farke felt he deserved more time. Webber's got no one will love Stuart Webber more than Stuart Webber. I'll be honest with you. He's very egotistical. And to be fair, he deserves.
Seems to be a theme with directors of football.
And he loves to come out. He loves to come out and give. So he'll say all the time.
God, he's another Victor Orta.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. He'll say like, "Oh, listen, listen to, you don't get this coverage anywhere else from any other club. So he done a lot of positives off the pitch for Norwich, I'll say, but it was almost a case of when he came in, we'd never have a director of football. The owners themselves are Delia Smith, 85. They're not
Come
really,
on!
yeah, exactly.
Getting Bates in disguise.
They're not really in touch with modern football, so he managed a lot of that well, and he's upgraded the training pitch and all of that sort of thing. But he almost wants God-like status, I would say, at Norwich, and he almost is. I think because the ego's so big, he doesn't understand why we're now so critical, because we're actually in the same position we were when he joined. I think he's almost like, look at what I've done for your club. You should love me, and I genuinely think that. So if he was to come to Leeds, I'd be surprised. He'll definitely use the fact a good 500 times that he's a Leeds fan to try and get you on.
I was just going to ask that. That's not a rumor, like, no.
No, 100% a Leeds fan. He's he's said that a lot of times, that he's so the job itself will be tempting for him, absolutely no doubt. I think almost the fact that he wouldn't take it is so Norwich fans don't critique him, but he's very, very susceptible to any hatred. I'd say Norwich fans critique him on, this isn't good enough. If he can't take it at Norwich, which he definitely can't, I can only imagine at Ellen Road.
He's proper buggered at Ellen Road, man. If Victor was kicking the tellies off the stands in the corporate area, he ain't going to last 5 minutes. That guy's going to be broken in about 2 weeks.
You can't come and work at Leeds if you've got a thin skin. You just can't. You won't survive.
Yeah,
and it does make me wonder what you've said there about you'd be surprised if they work together again. It does make me wonder if perhaps we were going to give him the job, but then we decided that we wanted Farke as manager, and that's why we brought Hammond in on a 3-month deal to cover the window and figure it out.
It wouldn't massively surprise me. I think also, again, the 3-month thing from a point of view of Webber coming wouldn't surprise me. So again, Norwich fans can't criticise him for leaving through the transfer window. He very much wants his name to be kind of look back on. If I was talking the same glowing references as Webber as I have been about Farke, really, the respect's still there. He would love that. That's the level he wants to kind of be at. That's the ego he's got. Whereas Farke probably doesn't have that, which is why he's probably got that kind of level of kind of fondness from Norwich fans. It wouldn't. Like I say, relationship-wise, it would really surprise me if he went there. Just those two. Football's fickle, but it was personal towards the end. That the way that ended, it was a personal hurt from Farke's point of view, definitely. If I was a Leeds fan, I'd steer well clear. Personally, I think that's a man who's done his best work and won't and will want full control of everything, which he won't have.
It could very well have been one of the stipulations of Farke getting the job that he doesn't get the role. Like unless he signed a contract, he doesn't have to. They don't have to give it to him. Like
it could be the real reason it took a while to announce.
Yeah, perhaps you don't know the ins and outs, but I'm sure someone like Phil Hay or Popey will find out now soon enough what the ins and outs are, and the contract decisions will be publicized at some point in minute detail, but enough to kind of make note of that particular thing happening.
Yeah, Bully's saying he's watched some Webber interviews and he comes across a bit arrogant, as he said before, not the man for the job. So there you go.
Yeah, he'll say he comes across as honest, and when it goes well, you go, "Oh yeah, this is a guy who is really honest, and gives you all the details you want to know." But he's a man who wants 100% control, nothing less, and that comes across. He's got enough of an ego, and when it goes against him, that ego doesn't disappear. So yeah, in my mind, I can't see how it would ever work with Stuart Webber going to a club of that size with that kind of heat on him. When it goes wrong, it would only go one way in my mind.
We've just got rid of one of them already, and it was like it was difficult watching for a while. It was like a train crash whenever he'd be telling the fans, like there's videos of him online telling the fans to fuck off and all this kind of cracking.
Well, he's shushing everyone.
You're the director of football. Get back in your box. Literally get back in your box.
You're meant to at least have a bit of decorum. Do you know what I mean? You can be passionate, but you don't turn on the fans.
No.
Well, there's
like,
one
you
time,
lot are wrong.
Yeah. There's one time with Webber where at the end of the Premier League season, he'd come back into Carroll Road, and one of the fans, very Norfolk-like old boy, had kind of said, "Look, this is rubbish. This is crap. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast. This is shit."
Yeah.
After 9 o'clock,
say whatever you want on there.
Wonderful.
Apart
okay, so
apart from one word.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I will not use that. Yeah, so kind of saying, oh, it's shit. And now, since then, Webber's kind of said, oh, I've been abused in the street, I've been abused here. That wasn't the case. It was a one-off at the game. And he said, I can't believe I've been sworn at whilst with my kid. That doesn't happen in Norwich. We're so laid back. It just would never happen. But that kind of one time, he's used that and kind of made it extremified to the point of I've been assaulted, abused verbally, all of that sort of thing by a club that should love me, which is not the case. It was a one-off. But like I say, very thin skin. Wouldn't touch him if I was any other club in the Football League, to be honest.
If the 49ers Enterprises are listening, listen to what this man is saying, yeah?
Wouldn't recommend it. It would go wrong. It would go wrong eventually. No doubt.
Well, don't listen to us, but listen to Jacob.
To be fair, when he did come into the frame for the job, it was Rads that was still in charge at the time.
That's true.
If this 3-month thing is, just a smokescreen to say, well, cheerio, then happy days. But it was a Rads kind of appointment that he was involved with, like.
From what Jacob's told us about him, they do sound like two peas in a pod, don't
they? Yeah, it does sound
two egos that need to be massaged. Have you ever seen an owner of a club go on Twitter like ours did?
No,
say some of the stuff he said.
I think, like you say, you're probably well shot of both of them, really, aren't you? In terms of how that's gone. I looked at that from afar. You look at it and go, they gave you, promotion and then didn't really back Bielsa, and since then, for me, it's just gone. They've kind of tried to
tore it all to shreds again.
Yeah. They've ruined their own legacy. So, and which Webber's pretty much done himself with Norwich. I'd say it's pretty similar, to be honest with you.
You're just looking at Delia's too old to get on Twitter.
Yeah.
Nothing through sherries, yeah.
Have you got anything else left to ask, Karl? Because
no, I'll be perfectly honest, Jacob. You've been an absolute delight to have on, man. And there's some good feedback about Farke and his backroom staff and what we can expect. Really, appreciate you coming on. I know you've been probably the most in-demand Norwich podcast presenter at the moment. But we do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's absolutely no problem. And feel free to give us a shout when we play each other next. And happy to. So no problem. It's been a pleasure.
And likewise, if you're on yours.
Kind of post-match thing as well. So sometimes we get rival fans on just to discuss the game. So.
Although not if you beat us 5-0.
I'll come on and play.
Yeah, definitely be on. Yeah, lads, I'm available. We don't want you.
I'll be spamming you.
Where can people find you guys, Jacob? Is it Cast Canary?
Yeah, Canary Cast at Cast Canary. Find us wherever you want. You'll find us kind of having a berating Norwich probably for the season and wishing Farke to be back. So you'll probably be able to take the piss out of us by then.
Hey mate, you never know what's going to happen. It could be opposite way around.
Yeah,
you are going to have a load of these people in your chats now on your podcasts because we've got the best fans. So.
I love it. No, it's been great and been great chatting to both lads, and I appreciate being asked.
No worries, mate. Before I let you go, I just have to ask you what you think of this.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't. So I've seen this live. It's kind of the back end of the city, and what I will say is it looks worse in person.
Jesus Christ.
It's not great. It's not great. And again, part of the joke for a lot of Norwich people now saying, right, can we cover it up?
All right, yeah, especially now that he's at Leeds.
Yeah, exactly. The
Bielsa, he's going to end up with a Leeds scarf painted on him.
I was going to say, I've been at Leeds. I've seen the Bielsa one. That's better.
Yeah. I know I'm biased, but I agree. Yeah. All right, Jacob, I will let you go, mate. But thank you again for coming on. That's been really awesome. And I'm even more excited for the new season now. So cheers.
Genuinely,
no worries, Caps. I've enjoyed it. And good luck with him. And apart from when you play us, obviously. And I'll speak to you soon. Much appreciated, lads.
Cheers.
All right, man. Take care.
See you later. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was Jacob from Canary Cast, and he were awesome, I think.
Yeah, he's bang on, chap. Go subscribe there, and sure, you never know, you might have some crack with the old Norwich fans later on in the season.
He knew his stuff, did Jacob? He were much better than we are.
Well, to be fair, I was hoping to kind of catch him off guard a little bit with the old coaching questions and his backroom staff, but he's clearly done about 20 of these already, so he was very much on that.
It's like an in-demand celeb on media duties, isn't he, for a book tour or something? Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants a piece of him.
Yeah. He's a sound fella.
He's a good man.
Yeah.
We're all excited. Cheers for that, Luke. Shame he's not a Leeds fan. We could swap him for Jay. Charming, isn't it? Charming.
Luke with his best German. There you go.
I'm not going to attempt to say it in an accent, so you've got no.
It's just smashing the likes. But, so
Dutch.
Yeah. Well. So yeah. Do you want to finish it up?
I enjoyed that. Yeah. I don't think we've got anything else till next week now. We'll be back for the main pod next Tuesday, and obviously we'll be talking about whatever's gone on in the next week, and hopefully there'll be a fair bit of news because things should start moving now.
Ins and outs. Definitely know who we can, just ignore now on social media after a little while, and then tell them to bugger off whenever the times are good.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll have a green light on that takeover and everything will be official by the time we're back. But
Luke makes a good point here, Jay. Actually, hold on a second. Hold on. Scum B and C. It's a friendly, but if we beat them,
maybe we'll see. We'll see who's about. Yeah. Jammy's asking about the name change. We've not made our minds up yet, Jammy. It's very, very difficult to come up with something that feels right. So we'll see.
We'll let you know, though. Don't worry.
Yeah, you guys will be the first to know, as always.
Of course.
But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming on, Karl. And I shall see you all next time.
Take care.